It's me, Debbie from Delta CX, and it is that time of the week. Office hours, ask me anything. Welcome, low ego action heroes. Give me a superhero emoji in the chat. We're going to jump right in. This is Office Hours Ask Me Anything, and I hang out here for an hour and I take your questions. You can always check the YouTube description for all the questions I took in order. And of course, I hear I sound fantastic at 1.5x or 2x. If you'd like to listen to these later, they're always archived on the YouTube channel. For those of you who would like to ask a question but would like to stay anonymous because maybe your question is sensitive, personal, it's about a job you're at now that you're not completely happy with, you can use the URL on the screen, and you can use this all week long. It is deltacx.link, which is my URL shortener, /AMA, like Ask Me Anything. So I've got the chat rooms monitored. I'm watching for you guys to have any questions or comments, or let me know how you're doing, how your summer or winter is going. I see 4 people in YouTube and nobody else in LinkedIn yet. So I did get a question last week. Just as we were wrapping up, somebody posted a question and it came in too late, but I wrote it down. So we're going to start with that one, and then of course ask questions as you have them, and I will answer them as in the order in which I get them. I'll also be checking my email for the anonymous questions. So feel free to ask any question that you have. The question that we missed last week, just as we were signing off, was, do you think there is a benefit to getting a master's degree in human-computer interaction? So that, of course, is a great question, and one we haven't covered that much, surprisingly. We've talked a lot about boot camps, but we haven't always talked about master's degrees, and I'm a little hot and cold on them because hey Maggie, good to see you, because unfortunately not all of the master's degree programs out there are good. I've seen some portfolios from people going through master's degrees, and the portfolios were in some cases as bad as the boot camp ones, or at least as bad as some boot camp ones can be. They're not all bad. So I think if you are going to be picky about the program and you're really going to research it well, and if you can afford the time and money, if you can get in, if you think it's going to help your career in some way, you can do it. But right now, UX is one of those careers where you don't have to have a master's. You don't even have to have a bachelor's. Remember, many people are coming in self-taught. They're coming in from boot camps. So it's not one of those industries where we really require these degrees. I think employers prefer degrees because in general they look at degrees and think that that might be somehow a better person. But I think we're learning and we're seeing companies change that. Hi, my dog's here, one of them. Not everybody who has a degree is fantastic at something, and there are many people who don't have degrees in this who are fantastic, and we should give, I always think we should give everybody a chance based on their portfolio and their personality. That's it. I know I don't care what degree you have, but if this helps you learn UX, if you have the time and money for it, I wouldn't tell you not to do it. I would just say research them carefully to make sure you found a good program with a good reputation. Search LinkedIn for people who graduated from it. See if it helped them get jobs or more respect or whatever you think it will do for you. So before you go running into any degree or program, do a lot more research. Find people on LinkedIn who did that program and see if you can get some of their thoughts on how well that's worked for them, or if there's something about it that didn't work for them. Sometimes I ask people, how'd your master's degree go? And they go, oh, I regret it. So good to put on your research hat and ask around. We've got someone here, and I'm going to mess up your name. I'm so sorry. This looks like either Aboli or Aboli. I'm sorry. Tell me where the accent is so I can say you correctly in the YouTube channel. And I'm going to let you know this person's question. It says, hi Debbie, lovely to see you online. Why thank you. I'm here about 4 times a week at 6:30 p.m. Italy time. Get to know me. Watch my hair get longer. Would you talk about design systems? I'm transitioning into UX. I was wondering if it's okay to use them to design them. Can you talk about free ones? Okay. Aboli. Okay, Aboli. Hello. So design systems. Well, when it comes to design systems, there are a lot of good examples out there. Some companies have made their design systems public. They've given them catchy names. I think if you were to Google, like put a company name and then design system, you'll probably find a lot of websites with these things. I am not a visual designer, so I can't remember the names of some of these design systems right now, but I'm pretty sure Adobe, VMware, who else, everybody? Lots of companies have put them up, and you could also look up material design. I would say in some ways that's a design system. It doesn't necessarily cover like logo usage or brand voice, but it certainly covers a lot of our reusable web and mobile and other components. You can also watch we did a podcast on design systems. Let me look up what number that was. If you go to the YouTube channel, which of course you're on, and you go to the playlists and you go into the live stream podcasts playlists, you are looking for episode 13, Design Systems with Sarah B. I don't think she gave any links to any of them specifically, but we did talk a little bit more about what they are and creating them. Caroline is here, Caroline Anonymous Crab, and she says Shopify and Polaris. Oh, Shopify Polaris. Is that what they named theirs? First I was thinking Polaris, like the power sports thing. Let me look this up. Shopify Polaris, Shopify Polaris, polaris.shopify.com. There you go. So thank you, Caroline. So as I was saying, there are many companies who have put these out there publicly. I'm not saying any of these are good or bad. I'm not saying they've all taken accessibility into account. But, so look at them with critical thinking hat on. Because you don't want to just copy them. But if you are looking for a guide to design systems or a template to follow, you definitely want to look at some of these famous companies and take a look at their design systems. So those are free ones, but again, ultimately a design system, at least in my opinion, is highly reflective of a company's individual brand. So that means you wouldn't just say, hey, I'm going to use Shopify Polaris. I guess you could, but then you're going to end up using a lot of Shopify's branding elements. So make sure that the company is okay with that. See if they think of this as a public thing to share or just expressing their private brand and you're not supposed to use it. That I don't know. And Maggie says she's got some design systems and she's going to paste them in. So thank you to Maggie. We'll take a look at what she pastes and then I'll shout it out. And then we've got a new question from Grace. So Grace, let me just paste your question into the little notepad that I use to keep all the questions. And let's see. And there's nothing in the email. So remember, everybody, you can ask a question anonymously, only if you want to, only if you feel like there's something you would like to express more privately. Maggie, if you're giving us a URL, I haven't seen it yet, but thank you for sharing. Okay, so Grace says, hi, Debbie. I've recently discovered your channel, and I absolutely resonate with your science and technique-based approach. Well, thank you for that. I've got a graphic I can slide out. Oh, sorry, I don't know where my own stuff is. Green screens, people. Science and technique. Thank you, Grace. As a beginning self-learner, do you have any trusted resources, courses, books, podcasts that really capture essential principles accurately? Super question. I currently do not. It's a big undertaking, and I do not have that. What I have heard is... Maggie, I'm not seeing a link. Sorry. Maybe it's just YouTube. And Amit says Salesforce Lightning System. Thank you. I thought it was Adobe Lightning. Thank you, Amit. Grace, I haven't seen that, but I am hearing from some people that the interaction Interaction Design Foundation, idf.org, is like, I think, an annual subscription, and there's courses there. I have not taken them, so I can't say, ooh, I took them, they're really good. But I have heard some good things about their courses. And again, to make sure that you're looking for those principles, you're looking for anything that says psychology, cognitive psychology, perception, behavior. Look for anything. I don't know if you can look through their catalog without being a member, but so I don't know what they have. I am not a paying person over there. I also don't know if LinkedIn Learning would have any good stuff in this area, but I would poke around for any courses related to, again, look up psychology, cognitive psychology, natural human behavior, perception, attention. There's a lot of them. So, you know, that's one way to go. Anybody else listening right now have a suggestion that we can shout out to Grace? So if we do, we'll yell it out. Maggie, you say there's a link. I'm not seeing it. Let me see if it's showing. If it's showing up in the YouTube chat, I will shout it out. But let's see. I have to go to my own YouTube video and look at the chat. So I hope it's not playing in the background. Meanwhile, ask your questions, everybody. Live questions. Maggie, I'm not seeing it, so I don't know if YouTube killed it. Maybe, Maggie, can you Slack it to me and I'll read it out. I'll put it on the screen. Grace says, thanks. I'm poised to start IDF and available courses online and maybe LinkedIn Learning. Okay, great. Let us know how it goes. Sorry, Maggie. It looks like YouTube pulled it. Yet I get all these porn links. That's probably what happened. It probably put the message into Debbie needs to approve this box, and I'm not watching it right now. So that's probably what happened. All right. So meanwhile, let's see. Maggie slacked me and says, okay, let me copy and paste this, put it up on the screen, read it out loud. Thanks to Maggie for her help and her patience. Here it is. Here's my text. Screen text editor. And slide it in. Oh, and slide out number 2. Boom. Okay, so here's what Maggie found. Evidently, this is a bunch of UI guidelines and maybe design systems. So check this out. I haven't looked at this link. This is from friend of the show, Maggie, Low Ego Action Hero. This is uiguideline.com/reference-systems. For those of you not looking at the screen, or looking at the screen but not seeing it for any reason. So that is something that you can certainly try and see if that helps you out as well with the design systems universe. And I do see there is an anonymous question coming in, but we also have a question in the chat room. And Glenn says Udemy has some good courses. And again, good is good. If you can find good courses wherever they are, look for them, you know. Caroline also suggests IDF. For books, Caroline suggests Design of Everyday Things by Don Norman. They suggest reading nngroup.com. I agree. NN Group has a lot of great articles. Usually I tend to agree with pretty much everything NN Group says other than some of the crap they've written about design thinking. And so there. Now let's answer Amit's question. Thank you for your patience, Amit. And then I'll take a look at the anonymous question that just came in. And let's also swap out what's on the screens for the anonymous URL. Okay, so Amit's question is, what is your take on atomic design systems? I'm so sorry we're talking about design systems because I am not a visual designer, but back in episode 13, Sarah actually talked specifically about atomic design systems, and she seemed to think it was a good thing, and I trust Sarah. She's a fantastic visual designer. So my impression of the atomic design system is that you basically create small components, and then you're creating larger components that are made up of smaller components. I think that can make sense. I think the only downside with any design system, atomic nuclear or otherwise, is we run the risk that some companies that don't understand CX and UX think that they don't need us, that if they just take a component library or a design system and they drop these things onto screens and pages, we've done the UX. So we just have to keep reminding everybody that it's really important to make sure that even with any kind of design system or component library, that we're still working with qualified, appropriate UX experts, specialists, professionals, so that we're not just dropping components on a page like it's refrigerator magnet poetry. Just going to take a quick break just to remind everybody we do not have a sponsor for this show, so this is the point in time where I play a 10-second video about my company.
Delta CX, available for CX and UX consulting, projects, and training. Contact us for a free consultation.
See, that wasn't so bad. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and tell your friends about it. That's how we got Grace here. I'm so happy she's here, and hopefully telling others to join the Low Ego Action Hero community. You can also hang out with us on Slack. It's completely free to join. There's no monthly or yearly membership. Just come on down. It's a little quiet over there, but we've got over 200 people, and it's deltacx.link/join Slack, and that should drop you right in. So feel free to join in what we do. And again, subscribing here, ringing that bell, pressing like on videos. These are really the best ways to support me because I'm not asking you for money, and it helps tell YouTube to show this stuff to other people. So hit that like button, please, and slide that out. So Maggie says, I agree with Atomic Design System approach. Aboli says, how to get people to do stuff. Master the Art and Science of Persuasion and Motivation by Susan Weinschenk is also a good read. I haven't read that, but I've heard good things about Susan from people I tend to trust, so that's probably a good one. Grace asks, any recommendations for books that delve into psychology? I know Darren Hood keeps a list somewhere of books, so you maybe might want to Google Darren Hood UX books or something. Maybe he's got an article somewhere where he lists the books that he suggests. It's a little outdated. I was very hurt my book wasn't even on it. But that might be a place to go. So thank you to the person who asked the anonymous question. I'm going to now jump into that one. So give me a moment to copy and paste it into our world today. Hold on. I am doing a bad job copying and pasting today. Oh, thank you. Somebody just joined the Slack channel. Thank you, somebody. And let's delete the question so I know I have answered it. Okay, so anonymous question that just came in from the fantastic anonymous question URL says, there are so many phrases being thrown around like product thinking, design thinking, and double diamond that just cause confusion. Can you explain what each term means and what's the difference? I can certainly try. You know, part of the problem with these terms is that sometimes people have very different definitions of them. So what I say design thinking is might not match what Don Norman says what design thinking is, might not match what Grace, Caroline, Maggie, and Amit says is, and Aboli says design thinking is, and that's part of why I want to see these terms go away. Now, I of course recommend episode, was it 50 here? Episode 50 or 51? I think it was 50. It was my anti-design thinking podcast episode. So again, go into playlists, live stream podcasts, roll back to episode, I think 50, and it's called Design Thinking Has Jumped the Shark. So design thinking, let's talk about this real quickly, but again, keep asking questions. Design thinking started out decades ago, basically meaning human-centered design. So if you were doing the whole of human-centered design, and I mean with all the proper science and technique and all the proper strategy, then human-centered design, the term design thinking came out of that because it was meant to imply that someone using that deep and thorough process had some sort of mindset and approach that they were trying to call design thinking. Sorry, my volume's a little low today. I'll turn it up. So, That sounded good. Someone seemed to understand that people like us were doing something special. They wanted to try to give it a name that maybe was a little bit more marketing friendly than human-centered design. I still like human-centered design. But what happened over the years was that it got redefined and it got squishy and mysterious. And now design thinking, not to everybody, but to many people, is some sort of really simple, watered down, half pseudo UX process where we're just going to do some exercises as a team. We don't need you UX person to do this work. We got the whole team. Everybody's a designer. Everybody's a design thinker. And we're just going to have everybody stab at the types of things that you and I spent years learning to do well. So that'll be my short burning to the ground of design thinking. Product thinking I haven't seen as much of, so let me see if I can Google that and see what people are trying to say problem thinking is, because I haven't heard that one that much. And I'm seeing a bunch of articles that are like 5 years old saying product thinking is the next big thing. Thanks, Medium. Let me guess, UX Collective, they'll publish anything. No, maybe. Let's see. I see. So someone was claiming that product thinking was an intersection between UX design and product management. I think that really doesn't make sense, because I think if product managers are doing their job well, their Venn diagram is the combination of business goals and strategies and customer needs and tasks. So let's say this is our overlapping circles. So I think a good product manager, in addition to all the other things a product manager does, is looking at business goals and strategies, looking at customer behaviors and needs from good data, and saying, okay, you know, what are we building and why, and how do we prioritize this? A great UX person really has to do some of the same things. We're definitely more focused on the customer's needs and tasks and who they are and why they're here and what they need from us. But we can't forget about some of the business goals and strategies that the company has. We can't say F those, because they are goals and strategies, so they are important. Sometimes we might push against them and say, I'm not sure our business has the right goals and strategies for what our customers need. If we're really agile, we might need to shift these goals and strategies. So the idea that product thinking is where these meet, I think is just somebody trying to come up with cool names. You know, we're in this sea of cool names right now where you had DevOps, and then all of a sudden you had design ops and research ops, and everybody was ops, and now everything is thinking. And I think it's mostly ignorable, because in general, many of these whatever thinking are not really meant for the people who are doing the work. You and I don't need design thinking, because what we do with UX is running through our blood, and I can't turn it off. I didn't need to learn design thinking or follow 5 steps. I certainly didn't need to do step 1, empathize. I can't turn my empathy off, and if you can't interrupt me doing it, it's not a step. So I think all these thinkings and ops are terms we really generally don't need, because technically research ops and design ops just mean your strategy and operations. If that means something to someone in a suit and tie or a skirt or both somewhere, I'd probably do the tie with the skirt and Doc Martens boots. Then great, call it ops. But I don't want anything called anything if it hurts the industry. And I think design thinking has hurt our industry by watering down what we do and making people feel like we can all get in a room and glue popsicle sticks together and paint them purple and say we designed the product, with of course no users in sight. So not human-centered design, not user-centered design. And then what was the last one the anonymous person asked? Double diamond. Yeah, I had a talk with a friend the other day about double diamond. And the problem to me with double diamond is that it takes human-centered design and user-centered design and it tries to make it look like a simple, boiled down, few-step process. Darren Hood had posted a graphic on LinkedIn where double diamond had like 40 steps to it because someone like tried to more realistically show what's happening in double diamond. And I was like, okay, that's not going to be as catchy as just the double diamond with the 4 blocks on it and the arrows, but it's probably a little bit more honest. Ultimately, any of these approaches are only worth what we put into them. And again, that's where our friend Science and Technique comes in. If you said, Debbie, I want you to do design thinking, maybe I can turn it into something and put glitter on it if I really applied science and technique. But of course, if you apply science and technique to design thinking, you would probably have human-centered design. These are some of the things that I think about that. And Grace was asking, do I have any mentors or masters in the UX field that I look up to? Yes, let me put that in the questions for today. Some of my favorite people to follow on LinkedIn, for example, so you don't even have to connect with them. You could follow them or try to connect. Some I follow, some I connect with. Larry Marine, he doesn't post very much. He comments on other people's stuff. He's just a genius, and I love his perspective and approach. So Larry Marine, M-A-R-I-N-E. Someone I love, Dr. Nick Fine, N-I-C-K-F-I-N-E. He also doesn't post that often. He's a very busy dude. He tweets a little bit more. Can't remember his Twitter handle. Somebody remember Dr. Nick's Twitter handle? It's, I don't remember. Google for that. Of course, Darren Hood. Who else? Oh, Stephanie Walter, I think is a great person to follow on LinkedIn. She posts a lot of stuff every day. I don't think the LinkedIn algorithm is kind to that many posts, actually, but she is worth following. It's Stephanie with a PH, Stephanie Walter. She's got lots of good articles and tips and thoughts on lots of areas of UX, UI, and even sometimes coding, like front-end dev. Of course, I look up to Don Norman, though I don't always agree with everything he says, which is healthy. So some stuff. Let's see, what else? Who else? Everybody else. Who do I follow and who do I look up to? That might be mostly it. If I think of more, I'll yell it out, but I think that's mostly who I follow. This is Office Hours Ask Me Anything. I'm your friend Debbie Levitt from DeltaCX.com. And of course, just a reminder, in my Delta CX world, I do lots of training. So I know not everybody's working somewhere right now, but if you are looking for training that I do it remotely as well. I teach people Axure. I teach non-UX roles what the heck UX is and how to work better with us. Every job seems to need that one. So let me know if there's any training that I might be able to do for your company. We all need that help. Grace says, thank you. Thank you, Grace. That's what Office Hours is all about, answering the questions. We've got 7 people live on YouTube, and let's take a look at what's cooking over on LinkedIn. LinkedIn says nobody, so I'm not sure if it's having one of those funky days or if it's really nobody. It says really nobody. 2 people. Hi. Sorry, you're not nobody. 2 people on LinkedIn. Always better to watch on YouTube. YouTube is a lot faster, so it's a little bit more of a conversation. Let's check the email, see if we got any other anonymous questions. No. Delete the spam. Okay. So as a reminder, oh, I forgot to put the question URL back up on the screen. There we go. If you'd like to ask a question anonymously, because otherwise we see your name in the chat, you can use deltacx.link/AMA. And remember that that link is available 24 hours a day, all week long. If you ask a question during the week, I will answer it first thing in the next Tuesday office hours. If you miss it, just watch the archive and your question will be answered. Okay, Grace has another super question, so I'm going to paste that in. Oh, we have another anonymous question too. Great, we're getting cooking. All right, let's answer Grace's question and then the anonymous question. Grace says, from your experience, how much does a good and trustworthy coach cost? Woo! Hard to say. You know, I wouldn't judge a coach by what they cost. I would judge them by what they can do for you. And I would remind people that you can always try out coaches. And if they're not right for you, you can always walk away. I tried a career coach some weeks ago because they claimed they were going to improve my resume and my LinkedIn and my whatever. And I started working with the person and I thought they kind of knew less than I did about LinkedIn and algorithms. So I was like, and we're done here. So don't feel like if you're working with a coach, if you're getting that feeling that it's not helping you reach your goals, it's not the right person for you, don't be afraid to walk away. Because whether that coach is 2 cents an hour or $2 million an hour, if they're wrong for you, they're just wrong for you. As for coaching, I am charging $50 for a half hour. That's American dollars. Sorry, Canada. 50 American dollars for a half hour. People can book half an hour, an hour. I also offer one free session to everybody. You can have one. And don't forget to show up for it. And we can talk about anything you like. And you can also see, you know, if you would like to continue with that. But again, even people who've had coaching sessions with me, sometimes they just do 1 or 2 and then they don't need me because they're going to go fix their resume or try something new or get that job. So again, don't feel like you have to keep paying a coach. Even with me, it's okay to have a session, 2 sessions, and then go and pursue stuff and check back with me when you need me. I know some fancier people in the UX space who are charging $200 an hour. Are they worth it? Are they worth twice what I'm worth? Maybe. So I think it's all about finding the right person for you and then hoping you can budget for them. And Maggie says, where can we find paid coaches or mentors? So Maggie, I would suggest watching our episode on how to find mentors. I think that was episode 59 with Kieran. And mostly there are a couple of websites that are listing mentors. But in general, I tell people, don't be afraid to just reach out to people you like and trust. Hey, you wrote the book I love. Do you do any mentoring or coaching? Hey, you post a lot on LinkedIn and I love what you say. Hey, you tweet a lot and I think we're of like mind. Hey, but what we said in episode 59 was make sure you've got a goal. Because if you write to me and you say, hey, Deb, will you mentor me? I'll probably write back and say, on what? Where are you now, and what's your goal? Now, if you don't know, then we have to talk about that. But if you do know, you got to tell me, because the best thing you can do with a coach is reach a goal. Now, you might not know how to get to that goal. That can be the coach's job to get you to that goal, just like a sports coach gets their player to that goal. But you kind of have to have the goal. I think it's been very awkward when I've tried to mentor some people who couldn't decide their goal, and I tried to help and they still couldn't decide, and I was like, well, I can't help you get to an unknown goal. So I think decide your goal and then reach out to the people you see on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, you read their book. Give it a try. You know, the worst that can happen is they ignore you, they don't answer, they say no. You know, hey, you tried. I think you can't really go too wrong for trying, even if you get rejected. And who knows, maybe you'll find that a person you really like says, yeah, I do mentoring and I can work with you for free or I can work with you for paid. And then you can see if you can budget for that. So Grace says, really insightful. Thank you. I hope so. We've got 2 anonymous questions. Let me get to those now. Keep the questions coming. Anonymous question 1 says, I saw a job description today that asked for, quote, 2 years as a UX designer using Bootstrap framework, client-side freelance, end quote. I googled Bootstrap framework, but it seemed like code. Are you familiar with this term and able to shed some light on it? You are absolutely right. It's code. So basically, Bootstrap is not quite a design system, but it is a framework where a lot of front-end developments, buttons, drop lists, and things like that have already been pre-designed. Now, you can still change the colors and you can still customize it, but it's like a ready-to-go component library. And this is usually great for front-end developers because they don't have to build a whole bunch of components. This is front-end development. So I would want to check from the rest of the job description if the job description mentioned that you would be doing code. Because obviously there's a difference between Debbie understands what Bootstrap is and Debbie has to customize Bootstrap, which is like, you don't want to give me that to do, and I don't want to do that. So I would say check the rest of the job description to see if they're using words like UX developer, UX front-end developer, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, writing code, coding prototypes. Look for any of these keywords that might tell you that this is a job that expects code. If they are saying you have to be 2 years as a UX designer using Bootstrap, that's really strange. It's really specific because I'm not sure I could show that, and I have 26 years of experience, and so do they really not want to interview me because I've only worked with Bootstrap for 1 year? So to me, sometimes when I see these red flags, I go, wow, these people don't even know what they want. I think I just don't want to work there. But that's a good one. I'm going to write that one down. Bootstrap client-side freelance, Bootstrap frame, because I'm working, though it's probably going to be more of an end-of-year project, on a training for HR people for what should and shouldn't be in UX jobs and job listings, and this is one of those ones that should not. Client-side/freelance, it also doesn't make sense. So thank you, anonymous person, for that. Yeah, it's front-end code, and it's good to know what it is, but I don't think we're dealing with that very much. Okay, we've got 2 anonymous questions. The anonymous questions are rolling in. Keep them coming. Okay, what should a product designer accomplish or try to accomplish in their first 90 days at a job? Super question, and that is best asked of your manager, because every manager should know the answer. If you were working for me and you said, Deb, what's my goal? How will you know I'm doing my job well? How will you know I'm doing my job right? I should have criteria and goals where I can say, I know you're getting it right if you do this, or you don't do this, or you show these values that our company or department stands for. So I can't say what you should get done in 90 days because I don't know what situation you're in. I don't know if you're the only product designer at an entire company. I don't know if you're one product designer in a company of 50,000. So ultimately the person, but you don't have to tell me, because ultimately the person who should answer that is your boss. You should even be able to ask that. I saw recently an article that said you should be able to ask that question in an interview. You should be able to say in an interview, what's the goal, what's the first 90 days of this job look like? Or how will I know I'm meeting or exceeding your expectations to the boss? How will we know if I'm successful in this job? I think it's okay to ask things like this at an interview. I don't think they're too specific. They might say, well, you're going to work on these secret projects we can't tell you about. I say, okay, you can't tell me about it, but how would you judge my job, judge my performance? What kind of goals, what's a type of goal we might set up for me in my first 3 months? I don't think these are unreasonable questions to ask in an interview, and they're not unreasonable to ask when you start the job. Your manager should know. All right, we got a couple more anonymous questions, and then we have one in the YouTube from Dandezu. I'm just making up how people's names are pronounced, so don't kill me. Okay, so I'm going to copy and paste this one into my list of questions, and we've got already another one, and oh, and they just keep coming. Hold on, let's get these in. Okay, we got lots of questions coming. Keep asking them. I've got 2 anonymous questions, and then we'll take the one from, I guess that might be pronounced Dandezu? I don't know. All right, anonymous question 1. How do you remove the ego in UX work? The best way to remove the ego is to never have the ego. So the question would be, whose ego is showing up in UX work? If it is yours, then it's good to have that self-awareness and see what you can do to improve your attitude, your confidence, your emotional intelligence, so that you are not acting out of ego. I am not a qualified psychologist, so I don't have a good answer on how to lower your ego or how to reduce your ego. Maybe that's Googleable, or maybe that's a good thing to work with a therapist. And I believe in that thing. I don't think there's a stigma there. I don't know how. I certainly can't make other people less ego. So if you're talking about yourself, then I think it's great that you have that self-awareness, and I'm honestly not sure how you would lower your own ego. I'm sure there are books. If you're talking about other people, I cannot lower other people's ego, and it's also not my job. You're just going to have to manage those people. You're going to have to understand when they're being high ego, when they're playing games, when they need to be right. You're just going to have to manage those people, because we're not going to be able to change them. I'm not sure if that answered your question. Send a follow-up one if that didn't quite cover it. So good luck. Next question. Biggest red flags from team members during on-site interviews and presentations. So I assume this is a job interview, and you're wondering, how do you kind of read people when you're doing the job interview, and or maybe you're even on Zoom or things like that. I recently had a job interview with 2 women on Zoom, and when I said something kind of silly, one woman smiled. And I thought her smile was genuine. The other woman stayed straight-faced the whole time. And I have to say, it really made me think like, oh, and they had introduced her as the person I would work with the most. So my read on that person is, she could be having a bad day. She could be a person with a tough sense of humor. She could be a person who's much more serious about her job, and there's no time for smiles. But it definitely, I definitely look for, are people smiling? Do they smile when they say something? Do they smile when I say something? I know these seem like just normal human interactions, but considering I just had an interview where this person didn't smile, now that doesn't mean they're unfriendly. Again, they may have had a bad day. They may just be people who don't smile at a lot of things, so I'm not deeply judging the person. But I'm just looking for people's reactions to things I'm doing to see if it looks like we might enjoy working together. When you are on site at a company, which I know is not safe right now, so please stay home. But when I'm on site at a company, I look for, how did people decorate their desks? What's on their desks? Is anything on their desks? Is anything hanging in their desks? Does it look like there's a good mix of fun and personality there? Or do they only have things related to business pinned to their cubicle walls, or are there drawings from their kids and pictures of their dog and other funky stuff? So, you know, because I'm a little funky, I'm hoping that other people will be a little funky, and I'm hoping the workplace has a little bit of fun to it and isn't, please only hang up certain stuff. Now, I know that depending upon where you work, sometimes it's against the rules to hang up certain stuff. Like I know government employees are not supposed to hang up religious things, and maybe some companies don't want you to hang up religious things. So don't look specifically for, like, I hope people have hung up religious things, but just look for what types of things people have put up around the office. What's hanging up around the office? What's on the walls? What's going on here? Is there a board of things happening at the office? Are there groups and subgroups? Are there meetings? Is there a massage day or yoga day or something? Take a look at that. I don't care about free snacks. I don't care about catered lunch. I'm looking at humans. And I'm looking at humans with each other and in their workspaces to try to see if they seem comfortable. Is anybody smiling, or does anyone look bright-eyed, or does everyone look like, get me out of this hell? So that's some of the things that I suggest when trying to judge a company from online and on-site interviews. Thank you, and good luck with your interviews. Next question. Okay, finally. I'm currently looking in the Bay Area for associate designer positions. I had one screen call but didn't proceed to the next round. Should I even attempt to apply to other positions given the current climate? I noticed it's pretty competitive. It is pretty competitive. That doesn't mean you should stop applying, but we have to figure out why you didn't make it. And I wouldn't tell you to stop doing anything after only trying once, unless you've decided it's just not for you. But I think we have to figure out why you didn't get past that screening call. And if you know, that's great. And if you want to share it, you can. But for example, if someone said you were not qualified, if someone said you didn't seem to know enough, if someone said you didn't seem to have experience, that might make me think that you might not be ready for other jobs at the same level. Because you might run the risk that you just apply to all these places and they all say, you're not qualified, you're not ready, you're not at this level. So it could be a signal to pause your job applying. Don't necessarily blame it on the climate. If you're not qualified, you're not qualified no matter what the climate is. Yes, it's more competitive now, but the competition doesn't make you less qualified. It just makes you part of a larger storm. So if you are getting feedback, or you can learn if was the problem that, hey, you were just one candidate out of a bucket of candidates and we just didn't pick you, okay, that's not enough to go by. But if you did get any feedback, especially like from a recruiter who might have said, we really needed someone with this type of experience or more experience or a certain amount of experience or whatever, then it's just a hint to you that you might need to do more learning before you apply again. I tell people to look at job descriptions and be honest with themselves. Am I qualified for this? Not do I think I can do it? Because everybody looks at it and goes, I can do that. I can do that. I'll figure it out. I don't want to hire, I'll figure it out. I want to hire, I can do this, and here's my portfolio that proves to you I can do this. Or I can do this at an associate level. Or I can do this at some other level. I can tell the difference, and maybe other people can too. So I would say take a look at job descriptions that you think you would qualify for, and then really ask yourself, do I qualify for that? Based on what they're asking someone to do, am I sure I can do that? Now, I'm not saying this so that you will doubt yourself, but really just to have self-awareness and self-assessment of, where am I in my career path? Am I still learning? Am I not ready for that first job? Or am I definitely ready and I just didn't get picked this time? Because all those interviews that I just went through that I mentioned, they didn't pick me. And that was okay. Because after the interviews, I wasn't as excited about them as I was before. So it worked out for everybody. But even I interview and I don't get picked for jobs. I apply to jobs and I don't get picked. And so if you looked at what Dr. D.M. Mooney posted on LinkedIn recently, he's got like 5 college degrees. He's got like 2 masters and a PhD and all this stuff. And he decided as an experiment to apply to 50 jobs. And I think he said he was rejected for over 20 of them and ghosted by a bunch of them. And he is qualified to do everything. So he's a truly amazing guy. So his point is that a lot of the application systems right now are broken. So we have to remember that sometimes we're throwing these applications out there and people are like, yeah, whatever. So try to get some feedback on whether or not this was just the luck of the draw, crappy systems were all applying to, or if there's more room for you to grow before it's more likely for you to get that job. We've got a question from Grace, and then we'll take a look at, let's see, there's an email coming in. So Grace says, which of your professional experiences would you say have contributed most to the mastery of your craft, and why? So I think that's specifically about me and my story. I would say my typical answer to questions similar to that, so I'm going to end up bending your question a little bit, is the best work experiences I've had have been at agencies, not at traditional companies. Typically at an agency, when they're bringing me in, I'm typically brought in as a hired gun freelancer, and somebody goes, oh, Debbie knows her stuff, let her do what she does. And in that freedom and flexibility, I tend to learn some new things. I tend to try some new things because I've got the trust of the agency, the trust of the client, and I've got some time and money to work with. That's happened much less at more stereotypical corporate jobs that I've had, or even some of my corporate contracting, because very typically there's a lot of politics. Everybody's trying to pee on the project to prove that they are amazing, and I'm just in the fight with everybody else, and I haven't been able necessarily to do fresh things. So I feel like agency work has been, my own agency and other agencies, has given me the flexibility to be more experimental, or like, for example, at an agency, I can say, you know, to do this right, I've got to interview 30 people. Very often at a company, they'll go 30, we just talk to 4. We don't have time or money for that. Yeah, I'm about to start a research project for my own agency. We're going to talk to 70 people. We could probably talk to more, but we decided 70 was a good cross-section of this company's customers, and it could be more. So at a traditional corporate job, I think you're lucky if you get to talk to 10 people. So I've just noticed that agency work has given more time, flexibility, money, respect, and leeway, which has definitely helped me grow. So I think where people can work for agencies, especially where the agency will have a more senior UX person who is allowed to review your work and help you and be a little bit of a mentor or coach, that should be a great setup. Let's see. We've got a follow-up, I hear. Follow-up. Let's see. Okay, so we got a couple of anonymous questions, and then we've got one in the YouTube from Shelly. Shelly, haven't seen you in a while. How have you been? So let's see. Okay, so we've got how to build better relationships with teams, and why is ageism such a big thing? These are our anonymous questions, and then we'll get to Shelly's question, and then we'll probably be out of time for today. So thanks, everybody. Okay, so getting back to questions. Dandisu says, I did follow up. Hopefully they'll reply back with some feedback. I hope so. And thank you for your input. I'm in Japan and saw the head of talent acquisition saw that as a concern, but I told him I'd relocate to the US by October. People should not be wrapped up in locations right now. I cannot tell you how many jobs rejected me in January and February before they interviewed me because they didn't like that I was remote. Now, how's that foot taste? You know, like, now it doesn't matter. You rejected me without even interviewing me because I was remote. Now we're in a kind of remote world. So, All right. So the anonymous question says, oh, Niku is here. Hi, Niku. Hi, Debbie. Just wanted to say hi. Hope you're doing great. Niku, I am. And as you see, so are the dogs. Oh, no, I can't remember. Are you following my dogs on Instagram or just Delta CX? Because I saw you on Instagram the other day. How do you build better relationships with your teams, including devs, design, product manager? Silos are pretty common at our workplace with little intervention from management other than pizza Fridays, but morale is low. How would you open up so that people are more willing to get excited about work? Okay, so that's got a lot of complexity to it, and I might not have a short answer. Oh, the my dog's Instagram. All right, hold on. Let me put that up on the screen because they're very popular. And I highly recommend my dog Instagram. It is Canetti Perfetti. And you can see the real-life adventures of my 5 hilarious dogs who are all related to each other and under the age of 4. So please follow us on Instagram. This is the dog channel. Okay, so back to the question. How do we break down the silos when management is not helping out other than serving everybody pizza? So what I do is, and it really depends on where you are in the project, but what I would start doing is I like to start with engineering. Because sometimes they are talked to the least and should be talked to pretty much the most. So I would go to engineering and I would say, hey, you know, here's something I'm working on with my UX designs. Let me show you a prototype I'm working on. Let's just make sure that you guys can build this. And of course, by guys, I mean men, women, and other. Let's make sure you peeps can build this, and that I'm not designing something that later on will frustrate you because you're going to go, we don't have time to build this, or we don't have APIs, or we don't have services. Start with them, and remember, they're not approving your work. You're coming to them and looking for them to look through their engineering lens at your UX work in progress. Hey, this is where I'm going with our UX concept, and I just want to make sure that if we go in this direction, that you'd be able to build it in the time and with the resources that you have, because I don't want to surprise you later and build something that doesn't work for you. That's going to melt a lot of hearts right away because that's a huge complaint. It's probably the biggest complaint I hear between UX and engineering. Engineering will say, UX, they never talk to us. They never ask us anything. Then they just give us a finished design and we have to build it and we can't build it. And then they just walk away and we never hear from them again. So you make that meeting, you call that meeting, you talk to them and start doing it in a repeated way, even if it's every other week. Hey, engineering, it's 2 weeks later. I wanted to show you where the concept went. Just making sure that if it continues in this direction, you're not going to be surprised by what the final designs look like. And anything you see here that you think we shouldn't be designing because of technical limitations. Make sure you use words like that, because some engineers will be like, I don't like this blue, use green. That's not a technical limitation, that's your ego. So make sure you're using words to try to make sure they're just doing their job and not yours. Are there technical limitations? Are there database issues? Are there software architecture issues? Are there performance issues? Is there anything that I'm designing here that is going to bump into technical engineering limitations? That's going to melt a lot of walls right there. I think that's a great place to start. And maybe on Pizza Fridays, maybe after a few of those happen, maybe on Pizza Fridays, you stand up and you say, hey, I want to tell you something. I've been working really closely with Jim and Sally the last month or so on making sure that they're prepared for the UX designs and that they can make sure that we're checking for technical limitations early in the process rather than being surprised by them later. And that's really working well for us. And so, I'm also going to start to talk to QA also. QA, I want to talk to you too. Maybe I can test a couple of the builds and make sure that the original UX designs are being represented well in the final coding. There's always ways to find ways to collaborate with people, but make sure you're doing it in a way where they're not doing your job, you're keeping your power and your domain, and you just want them to do their job. And look at the stuff. You can go into the live podcast playlist for collaboration, design by committee, and decentralization, where I draw some lines between the difference between collaboration and, hey, everybody, let's draw screens with UX, because you don't want the second one. Caroline says, no throwing designs over any fences. Remove the fence. Yeah, and don't wait for pizza day. Call that meeting. Call that meeting and say, engineering, I know you're frustrated when you get designs that you can't build because we didn't talk about them before. So I'm working on something now. Let's talk about it. What are they going to say? No? F you? I'd rather be surprised in a month when you finalize it? No. They should be good with that. I hope that helps. Next, why is ageism such a huge thing in UX? I'm just going to say ageism is a huge thing everywhere, and that's unfortunate, and it's out of control, and I can't control it. So we have to, the bottom line is anybody who is honest about diversity and inclusion can't be ageist. You can't be racist. You can't be anti-LGBTQ. You can't be ableist and against people with disabilities. You can't be any of these things if you genuinely care about diversity and inclusion. And I agree with the people who are calling for the boards and the executive suites of companies to show more of that diversity in age, in gender, in LGBTQ, in ability or disability, and in all of these areas. And then it's got to be the whole company. Yes, I want to see the management and the C-suite and whatever and your board. I want to see the everyday people also. Someone sent me a link the other day to a company that we were looking at apprenticing at, and they had like a meet our team page, and it was like 79 white faces and an Indian guy. And I was like, oh, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that. I don't want anybody to be that. So I can't fix ageism. We can only just keep calling it out, talking about it, pushing against it. Obviously, in my HR training, we'll be talking about ageism, and that especially if you think you want to bring in junior UX people to save money, you are going to have to also bring in the seniors who are going to support and help them. Caroline says, don't wait for pizza day. Need that on a sticker. Caroline, I'm on it. Let me write that down. Don't wait for pizza day. Don't wait. I have to write this. I'm so bad at writing words. Don't wait for... Does anybody type so well they can't write anymore? That's me. Don't wait for pizza day. Collaborate today. We're going to work on some Delta CX merchandise. We've got 4 Horsemen of Bad UX coming, and I will do... we're working on low ego action heroes, and we'll definitely do Don't Wait for Pizza Day. Collaborate today. No, thank you, Caroline. Anonymous Crab. Shelly, you've been so patient. You will be my last question today. Everybody else, if you have questions, come and ask them in the Slack channel where I hang out and answer people's questions when I'm awake. Note, I'm going to bed in a few hours. Of course, subscribe here, tell friends, press like on the video. Best way to support what I'm doing here. So let's see Shelly's question. Shelly says, hello, Debbie. Have you ever been asked to create a product or solution to a problem your customer could not articulate in sufficient detail, and or a problem that ran deeper than anyone's solution or fix? If so, how do you go about narrowing scope, or what was your course of action? Well, I've got a short answer and a long answer. My short answer is, if you would like to laugh and cry, you can go into the YouTube channel, and there is a playlist called something like Conference Sessions and Workshops. Workshops, conference sessions. It's some of the recordings of talks I've given at conferences. And there's a half-hour talk that I did at a engineering conference, and it's called Let's Not Congratulate Ourselves Just Yet. And it is a string of horror stories at a company where I worked, where mostly they were asking me to create solutions to non-problems. So I would say watch that, but you might end up crying. So how do I go about narrowing scope, or what's the course of action? And again, no matter what you do, sometimes you end up with that client or that stakeholder who just doesn't want to hear it and just expects you to be an order taker and a good little screen sketcher and just shut up. So remember that my advice here cannot fix everything. I can only tell you some of the approaches I've tried with varying degrees of success. So if you are being told this is the, Dandizu says, thank you, Debbie. I found you through the LinkedIn rabbit hole. I'm glad I ran into you. Definitely getting insightful advice and understanding teams. Well, great. Thank you. Please subscribe. There's so many things that you can do here, but I know they don't always work depending upon the level of egos and other things you're dealing with. It could be egos. It could be people under pressure to ship software, whether it's good or not. It could be people under pressure to make the company money, whether it's ethical or not. It could be people under pressure to build something. Oh, Caroline, you're the sweetest. I see your Slack message coming through. I will answer that after this. Um, there's so many moving pieces here. So, narrowing scope, course of action. These are the things I dream will work, but of course they don't always work. So, number one is how do we know that? Oh, you want to build X for Y? Or it's one of our company's goals to release Z? Why? How do we know that that's what our customers need? Can you show me some of the data that you collected from customer support or from interviews with customers that show us that that's something we should do at all, or the next thing on the priority list? It's hard to ask that in a way that doesn't sound like you're putting them on the defense. So you got to practice in front of a mirror a lot. But typically, I'll try to find some gentle way to say, well, I believe in data-driven design. I believe that lean and agile are about efficiently finding the best solutions for customers, maintaining quality, and reducing defects, reducing things our customers see as broken and disasters. So before we go and build this, let's make sure it's got really solid customer value, because really Agile, Lean, Six Sigma, everything you can think of is all about making sure we're putting customer value out there. So let's take a closer look at this one. And then if someone says like, well, that's what the business wants, or that's what the stakeholders want, say, well, I understand, and ultimately we do want the business to be happy, but we can't have happy business and unhappy customers, because that's going to circle back to the business and make them unhappy. So we have to find where those Venn diagrams can overlap. And if someone says, well, you're thinking about users too much, you have to think about the stakeholders in the business. I say, well, I do, and that's why I studied Agile Principles, and Agile Principles says that we must constantly gather customer feedback and assess it and analyze it so that we can make sure we're always going in the right direction for our customers' needs. And that part of agility is changing our goals, changing our strategy, changing our product or prioritization based on what we learn about customers. That's all right there in Agile. That's at the core of Agile. Nobody remembers that because they think Agile means just go faster. And nobody remembers that because they think Lean means do the least you can. But neither of those are correct. Lean is about making processes more efficient so that we can reduce defects and thereby improve the quality of what we give to the customers, because without that higher quality given to the customers, we are exploding our business's risk. That's at the core of Lean. The core of Agile is we want to get into a good reproducible cadence of reliably doing work in a fairly predictable way. But we also want to make sure that there is a value stream and that there is value to the customer, that features could be marketable, that sales can sell it, marketing can market it, because we are building things that customers have been asking for or will be excited about or will push us ahead of the competition. So I find that for my stuff, Shelley, very often I'm trying to invoke core principles of Lean and Agile to remind people we're supposed to be Lean and Agile here, but Agile isn't go faster, faster, faster. Agile isn't just build it and pray that we don't end up in hell, in Twitter hell, in customer support hell, in canceled accounts hell. That these things aren't Lean and Agile. Lean and Agile are about being smarter and improving your internal processes so that you're more likely to deliver something that the customer perceives as high quality. Also, I want to get more into reminding companies how much they used to invest in research and development. Now they got rid of those teams. Who's doing research and development? It's kind of us. If someone doesn't have an R&D team, we are the R&D team. I'm going to be writing an article on that next month. We are the R&D team. So, we need to have some time, we need to have some budget, and we need to help our companies mitigate risk and keep them from going in these wrong directions, keep them from making costly mistakes that make engineers have to rebuild and things like that costs the company money. I hope that helps. That was a long version. I hope that helped. So guys, we ran late. Sorry about that, but I hope this was helpful. Couple of programming notes. Won't you please join tomorrow? Tomorrow we will have Dr. Seth Finkel, psychologist, here to talk about, he doesn't work in UX, he's just a real psychologist, and he joins us for psychological talks. He did What is Empathy? He did Dealing with Malignant Narcissists, or Dealing with Narcissists. He did Dealing with Change. We've done lots of great psych topics with Seth, and he tomorrow will be doing Recognizing Gaslighting and Being Set Up to Fail. Hands up if you've ever been set up to fail. Don Dizu says, amazing, I'm tuning in every session. Press the alert bell. Thank you. I appreciate that. And then Thursday, as part of Self-Help Week, will be improving your resilience. Resilience is really important in UX because, as you can tell from the answers I give to questions, we are in a lot of conflict. We end up in a lot of fights with people. And we get turned down a lot. We get told, no, you can't do that. No, you can't build that. No, you can't talk to customers. No, 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 no. No, just let this guy draw some screens. So we have to have resilience. We can't crack and fall apart every time something frustrating happens. We can let it get to us, but then we've got to pull ourselves back together, and that's what resilience is about. And we're going to learn from Dr. Ruth Diaz how to improve our resilience. Caroline says, virtual hand up. Tell me about it, sister. So thanks to all you low ego action heroes for joining in for today's office hours. I do this every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Italy time. I'm in Italy. Hope wherever you are, you're safe and healthy. Please avoid people and wear a mask. That's not a political statement. That is a science-based statement. I was pre-med in college until I dumped it because I realized that was not where my life was going, but I did take physics with calculus, so I'm qualified to say, please wear a mask and keep yourself safe and keep the questions coming, and we'll see you next Tuesday and hopefully tomorrow as well, because Seth is always awesome. He's a great combination of smart and funny, and some people have written to me and said my talks with him have changed their lives, so I don't think I can understate or overstate Seth. He's just amazing. So see everybody tomorrow. Be well, and thanks for joining.
Thanks for watching. Delta CX is available for consulting and projects related to CX and UX strategy, leadership, training, problem finding, problem solving, and innovation. Learn more at deltacx.com.